Hey everybody, this is Mike at Mike's Total Dragon Channel, and today we are going to go over and talk a little bit about what I liked and I did not like about DC All In, their new initiative they're launching that ties into new, I guess you want to call it, slogan or commitment to storytelling. Um, Brand new jumping on points for all of their titles, and also at the same time launches their Absolute Universe, which is a separate universe which features different iterations and versions of a couple of their heroes, which are they're initially going to launch with 3, which I'm sure they'll have more to follow, and they're launching, of course, the big 3. Their Trinity, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And the Batman book will start next week. So what they're doing right here in the All-In special is they are basically kind of giving us the idea and showing us how it happens. And of course, I have thoughts as a longtime reader of comics. And so we're going to get into it. And I don't want to run too long, so I'm not going to go into the story too terribly detailed in case somebody sees this and they haven't read it yet. I don't want to give away too much, which I mean, I guess that would kind of be almost impossible to do without me talking about how I feel about the book. So I guess tread lightly is what I'm saying. But anyway, let's go ahead and we'll get started. This book here is a flip book. So you've got the all-in part right here. This is what they're calling the alpha section. The backside, you've got what they call the omega section. And this has the absolute versions of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. And so basically you're getting 2 books for the price of 1, which is one of the things I did like about it. Anyone that knows me knows that I like value. And 2 for the price of 1 is always good value. So we'll go ahead and start it up. One of the things I did like about it, I like the artist here, Daniel. I'm sure I'm going to butcher this last name, Sampere. I loved his art. I found it clean, very crisp, a good portrayal of what the mainline superheroes should look like, kind of bright and engaging. So we've got basically how we're starting this off is they're forming a new league, putting it together, building a new tower. Superman's going around, he's recruiting people, he's handing out cards, lets people know that they've got membership. He hands one to Booster, tells Booster he appreciates him kind of stepping his game up, being serious, his growth overall as a hero. We got a couple ads for books upcoming, the new Superman, the new Batman. As you see, they're pushing their all-in motto, slogan, whatever you want to call it. Essentially all new jumping on points. I really enjoyed these pages here. Everyone arriving at the brand new Watchtower. I did like that. I did like the fact that they have the Question as being head of security, and it also looks like it's the Renee Montoya version of the Question. At least I think she's still the Question. Everyone's gathered here. Superman's kind of giving the rundown about what their plan is, that they're launching Justice League Unlimited, and it's just going to be a situation where everyone's on the team is what it looks like. So Alan Scott with the the beginnings of a beard right there. I didn't notice that last time I read through it. And then there's his son, Obsidian, and his daughter, Jade. So everyone's in attendance for that. And of course, when you have this many superheroes in one spot, then you've got to have a supervillain. This is a little advertisement for Justice League Unlimited. Mark Waid and Dan Moore, that's a solid team. 9 times out of 10, I'm following Mark Waid on anything he does. I've been a long time fan of his since the days of him on the Wally West Flash. All the heroes in one spot. And like I said, you've got to have a villain show up. And who better to show up than Darkseid, DC's big bad. And if you'll notice, he's got a hatchet here on his hand. We'll find out more about that. That's just a solid looking panel of Darkseid, with the red crackling behind him, that boom tube effect, the Kirby crackle, the axe for a hand. Super powerful looking, as he should be portrayed. This here is a breakdown of their all-in titles. As you see right here, this fall, DC goes all in with its biggest publishing initiative in years. Starting in October, thrilling new creative teams join DC Core Universes. Fresh new story arcs, brand new accessible points, yada, yada, yada. Everyone's essentially dogpiling on Darkseid. Satana casts some magic to empower Superman. And then, kaboom. Thank you, Darkseid ends. So you're kind of wondering, why did Darkseid crash the party and then basically explodes? I mean, he kind of goes out in like a, what's the word I'm looking for here? This was like his hail of, like you see those movies and the crooks are outnumbered. They just end up bum rushing the cops at the end, go out in a blaze of glory. And that's essentially what Darkseid does here. However, Superman still feels like something's fishy. In Darkseid's left this behind. This kind of rift, tear in space or whatever is what's left after Darkseid end up getting destroyed. Mr. Terrific deduces that it's a portal to like another dimension or another world. But of course, since we're in DC, we're just going to call it another universe, a multiverse. The only people that are able to access it, I guess you would say, time travelers. And who's the time traveler that we recently just brought on? Booster Gold. So him and Skeets enter the portal. Of course, things go south. Booster Gold ends up in a future or alternate world. I'm not sure which, in which things seem to be greatly different than they were previously. Whenever you see the Darkseid's Omega symbol on the Daily Planet, it looks like also some parademons here in the background flying around. You're going to have a bad time. And of course, he's lost contact with the main universe heroes. His Legion ring, which he had stolen, because he's from the same future as the Legion is, the 30th century. It also has the logo of Darkseid. And boom, we've got the Legion of Superheroes, but they're evil. So that is the first side of this book. We're going to flip over. And you're free to read this book in which order you would like. But I feel like this is the best side to start with. Read this. And then flip over and read this. So now this section here basically details Darkseid's journey and what led him up to his appearance when he crashed the watchtower. He's building a new machine here, and it's fueled by his blood. You've got his son Kalibak telling Darkseid, the heroes of Earth, at the moment they're weak, they've been beat down, they're on the mend from their latest big event crossover they had. Now it's the time to strike. Darkseid says, no, I've got something else on my plate. I have a machine that I can only run off of my blood. And who else do I know that has my blood? Oh, it's my son, Kalibak. There's an advertisement for Absolute Batman. Don't worry, we will talk about that next week. I have so many thoughts. Darkseid kills his son, dumps it into the machine, uses his blood to power it up. Now the whole purpose of this machine right here is, this machine is basically, Darkseid said that its whole purpose is to grant him, it's basically a wish granting machine, and that's his words, that's how he described it. Now Darkseid is traveling different realms. He's in hell looking for something. He won't tell us what he's looking for. He's just wreaking havoc. Everyone says he's not here. Now he went from hell to heaven. Here he fights Justice League member Zoriel, who is an angel in heaven. Zoriel tells him, look, I can give you back your wife. Just give up this quest. Darkseid says, no, I'm going to continue on. He confronts Eclipso. They choose to wage war. Now, I thought this was a really cool page. The battle he fought with Eclipso, actually being the more dominant because they are in Eclipso's lair, which there is no light, there is no sun, and because it's pure darkness, he's more powerful than Darkseid. However, Darkseid here, he hits Eclipso with that Batman prep. I primed a boom tube to hit here 15 minutes ago, or whatever it is. Boom tube brings a sun basically into Eclipso's realm, destroys him. I thought that was a cool fight. He finds here Jim Corrigan, who is the human host of the Spectre. Now, if you don't know who the Spectre is, the Spectre is basically if God had an agent on Earth to enact his wrath, it would be the Spectre. The Spectre works for God, and this is his terminology. This is not me paraphrasing. He works for the DC God, and he is his weapon of vengeance here on Earth and other planets as well. And he is bound to this fella right here, Jim Corrigan. And Darkseid, this is the page where the panel where he talks about the machine he created. It is a miracle machine, and now all I have to do is to make but one wish. And his wish is, I wish to bond with the Spectre. And all these other cosmic deities are like, no, don't. That's not in good interest for anybody. So they get bound together, which brings us to the scene where Darkseid crashes the Watchtower and confronts all the DC heroes. And it also explains, here's some of the absolute titles they're going to be launching. Superman in a cornfield. How mysterious. This also explains to us how he got his axe hand right there, because he chopped off his hand to initially fuel the wish granting machine. And so all we've got here is Darkseid battling everybody and explaining that there is a power source out there that he can sense, that he wants to be a part of, and the only way he could be a part of it is if he was to battle the Justice League and they defeat him, and once they defeated him, that would send his power and his essence to this world that he has become so intrigued with lately. And as we can see here, Darkseid's presence on this world, which this is his hand holding that world, which is the absolute world. His presence and his energy has made that world darker. It's a world in which good doesn't exist. It's challenged and beat down by evil and darkness. So the heroes that we know, they're not heroes for hope or whatever. They're basically, you know, I don't want to say grim and gritty because that's such a cliche to say, but it's a world where hope and good, you know, don't easily exist. And so that is what leads to the origin of the absolute universe, a world created and contaminated by Darkseid, which leads to Booster Gold, his revelation that him being in the future is a future that has been corrupted by Darkseid. So that's kind of a brief breakdown of this issue here, and it's a lot of the things that I liked about it. Now I'll get into the things that I did not like about it and that I did not care for so much. So the number one thing that I did not care for, the first thing that stands out to me is this right here. This is in panel form, a recap of the past 5 years of DC. This is from Metal, DC Dark Knights Metal or Dark Metal or whatever it was called, to Absolute Power. So this in the span of 5 years is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And counting Absolute Power, which was just wrapped up last week, 7 events in the past 5 years. Now that is terrible. To me, that is terrible. And not only are these just events like, hey, we had, you know, Nightmares for 2 issues. This was Dark Knights Metal, which had more multiverse stuff. This was the I don't even remember what this was called. This was the one where basically they put all they said that all the timelines and all the continuity existed. Basically, in this one right here, they said everything that had ever happened that you had read in every comic book existed, and it was somewhere out there in the world. And then you had, this is the one, Lazarus Planet, which I don't even remember what that was about. Night Terrors, which was 2 issues that seemed to just throw a monkey wrench into everything. The one where they got turned into animals. Then you had the House of Brainiac. And then Absolute Power. So to me, this is a whole lot to have gone on in the past 5 years. It seems like storylines and events, status quo changes for the sake of nothing. And I understand that DC, just like in Marvel, you know, they're not totally off the hook either. But what I think really makes it hits home for me, and what really is a point of contention, is you've had these in such short order. Then on top of that, you had just like it just feels like reboots upon reboots upon reboots upon, continuity changes, hyper time, omni time, all of it happening in succession. Then you had the Heroic Age, the Dawn of, or I'm sorry, DC Rebirth, Dawn of DC, all these slogans, initiatives, and then you have all these storylines in the span of 5 years, and it's like, man, can we just get some books, bro? So that's the number one thing that I didn't like. There's nothing as a reader, I feel anyway, as a long-term reader, that turns you off more than excessive reboots, telling you that other stuff didn't matter, telling you that, we're answering questions that nobody asked. Like, we all know that there's a reason, that none of this stuff, like, we all know that 80 years of continuity doesn't fit into DC, It's just generally accepted. We all know that. There's no need to make a hyper time, omni time, multiverse storyline about it. So now we have this scene here where Darkseid shows up. Now we know that he has joined with the Spectre, and his mission is to go out in a blaze of glory to be able to power the absolute universe that he found. But he also has a machine that he created, as we saw in the other page. I'm going to spin it around here. He has this machine here that he sacrifices his son to power. And this machine grants wishes. If it grants you a wish, then why can't you use it to put yourself into the absolute universe? Why do you need to attack the Justice League for them to destroy you? How did you to destroy you so you can travel to the absolute universe and be its influence? I don't understand that. The other thing that I did not understand is so apparently somehow Darkseid just dies. I guess Superman uses magic heat vision. I don't really gather how he kills him. Because right here he's basically just standing there. He commands Darkseid. He says, "Free him." He's using backwards words because he got power from Zatanna. So this part here, to me, I kind of found confusing. I think, to me, in general, this section of the book, the Omega section, I found it a little too complicated. I get the fact that Darkseid wants to be the ultimate Darkseid, and he wants to power and contaminate this universe to be basically kind of like a Highlander style. He wants to be, he's the last Darkseid standing, and he now has all the power. So I get that, but I don't know, it just feels like it's too much, especially when you factor in There's a machine that can grant wishes, and that wish allows him to do anything. But I mean, a lot of this is kind of, you know, if you're buying into the logic and the mythology of the storyline, if you're buying in 100% to what they're talking about and what they're trying to do, you can just kind of be like, whatever, storytelling. One of the other things, although I did enjoy the 2-for-1 format, I kind of thought this being as a flip book just felt kind of awkward to read, to spin around. I mean, there was definitely, if I hadn't seen online that it was reading this section was the preferable way to do it, I could have read this section first. And I mean, ultimately, it really wouldn't have spoiled anything. You just kind of would have read a lot clunkier. And then again, that's just me talking about how I feel, my preferences as a reader. My last criticism, and I'll probably go into this more last week, is launching the Absolute universe and launching these Absolute titles. Because Darkseid has basically contaminated that one reality, that one multiverse dimension, whatever you want to call it, everyone is now darker. Do we really need that right now? That's my number one bone of contention. Do we really need does DC really need yet another darker universe? I mean, look how much stuff y'all have gone through just in your own universe. Look at your timeline. Dark Metal, Lazarus Planet, Night Terrors, House of Brainiac, Absolute Power, which just ended last week, or maybe it was this week, I'm not sure. None of these were very bright and joyous, but yet you feel like right now is the time to give a universe that functions as one where hope and good are, basically concepts that don't easily exist. I mean, look at this. Do they look cool? Yeah, I mean, maybe, I guess. I don't know. But I just feel like that it was, right now as a tone, DC does not need more doom and gloom. Like this is the company that launched the Super Friends cartoon, for God's sakes. And I understand that's 100 years ago or whatever. But man, I just don't feel like that's the need right now. But that's just me. Now, the other thing that I'll talk about real quick, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Let me see if I can find it. The All In Initiative. The most exciting stories in the world are all in DC series, and the greatest writers and artists are all in to bring them to you. And some of the, then what were you doing before? That's my thing. Then what were you doing before? If you have to put out this one shot to tell us that everybody is all in, what were they beforehand? Why do we need, and here's the other thing, and I'm really surprised they're not doing this. None of these books are getting relaunched with the number one. Green Lantern 16, Power Girl 14, Detective Comics 1030, etc., etc. None of these books are getting relaunched with the number one, but you're telling us that these are all fresh entry points without reboots or retcons. I mean, isn't that what happens? Isn't this just the normal progression of a comic, of a storyline? You've got the Tom King Wonder Woman book right here. They're continuing the numbering. They're continuing Tom King being on it. So in reality, outside of the slogan just being all in, there's really nothing that changes. I mean, this is the status quo. This is how comic books operate. A storyline gets wrapped up, and then another one is launched. So I kind of don't understand the methodology to this. Outside of it being an advertising slogan. But DC is once again, chasing readers, trying to get more and more people to pick up books, And I'll be the first person to say this. I hope this pans out for them. I hope that more people see the All In initiative and they're like, hey, I want to get into Nightwing. Hey, I want to get into Green Arrow. I want to get into Flash, etc., etc. So I hope it works for them. But naturally, as a longtime comic book fan and someone who has been through numerous DC reboots, relaunches, advertising slogans, I'm kind of skeptical of the whole thing. But hopefully, there's a lot of fans out there who are new and not quite as jaded as I am, and are able to view this with a fresh set of eyes and gets new readers into the comic book store, which is of course I like to crab about it and critique, but I'm always a fan of that. I want to see comics succeed. I'm 48 years old right now, and comics have been pretty much a big part of my life, or they have been a big part of my life for 40 years, something to that effect, 42 years. So obviously I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about the industry, but the biggest thought I have is I want it to succeed. I want it to succeed. I want it to get, and I know that's tough sledding, and I just would like to see more and more people picking up books than I would people talking about, the latest animated project or the latest video game release. So that's going to be it for today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you get a chance, check out All In. Let me know what you think about it. Hopefully everyone enjoys it. I've already heard that Batman All In is tremendously good, that it's better than the previous 24 issues that Zdarsky did combined. So it looks like DC might be starting out on the right foot. Let's hope they can keep it up. So until next time, you guys take care, and bye-bye.